Greetings and salutations to the 310 tribe. Welcome to another Saturday Night Live. It's been a while since I've done one, but hopefully everybody's doing all right tonight. I'm just sitting here. I've been working on slides for, I just realized I have like one, two, three, 5 or 6 conferences coming up this year, and I don't have anything prepared going forward. So I was like, man, I need to get started on this. So in each of those conferences, you figure there's maybe anywhere from 1 to 3 presentations. So it's a lot of stuff I got to put together. So I don't know. The first one's not until March, then May, then June, September, then possibly late September or October. So still waiting to hear on that. And then, stuff comes up. There's another one that I possibly could do in Oregon. I got to work with the folks, the church there, and figure out the right time for that. Hello to everybody. Hope everybody's doing good tonight. Saturday night. I mean, it's not like I'm out partying or doing anything crazy. So Little Light was the first one on tonight. Yeah, Lisa. Hey, Lisa. Keith Kaufman from Texas. Old Man Ed. Who else do we got on here? Melody Phillip. Ida Gonzalez. Captain Time. Melody Staff. Trink 888. Well, hello. DS Desclev 1960. Hopefully I said that right. Yeah, I don't have any agenda tonight. I'm working on stuff right now on Mystery Babylon. Working on some Great Delusion stuff and just the myriad of presentations I'm preparing to get ready here. Let's see. Right now I have Babylon Incorporated, and I have Mystery Babylon, Confidence in Chaos, On Future War, Reality is Fake, Tinfoil Hat Brigade, Theology Adrift, and What We Can't Not Know are some of the working projects I've got going on. So a lot of this is, some of those are from articles I've written over the years and stuff I wanted to go back and revisit. And who else do we got on here? James Wells. Hello, James. Kendall, Susan Wild, Elizabeth Richardson, Debbie Blake, Tina Odell, Pam Lester, Stacy Loves Jesus, Deborah Dorr, Linda Bishop, Kendall Bear 5929, my mom. Hey, Mom. Mom's in. I'll see you next weekend. Watchman Dave, Rafikis, Kim We Fly Soon, Mary Sue, Shauna Tibbetts, Seated in the Heavenlies, Crystal White, Janet Lewis, Bia Berean, Jan McGrath, Tyler Glover Photography. What's up, Tyler? Tracy Moore, Neva. Yep, I should see you at the Mississippi Conference, Neva, in May. Penny Campbell, Samuel, plus 17 degrees Celsius yesterday here in Calgary. Very warm. It's usually minus 12. Oh my God. Oh man. Trevor Maiden, Trail Marker, Debbie Long, Crazy Cat Lady. I'm contemplating getting I want to get a Maine Coon. And I'm coming from a house that had 8 dogs, so I'm looking for a little change. Thought cats might be a little chill, but Pam College, Joan, Doris, Melissa. That's Melissa. Sorry, it's hard to read these. The font's so small. Andolips, Kel Whimsy, Lisa, yes. So far, what I've got this year, I'm as far as I know, you never know what's going to happen with the way the news cycle is these days. So Kurt Reed, that'd be Las Vegas in March. The Gauchers in Mississippi in May. Lamb Lion Ministry are doing something in McKinney here in June. I tell them I think it's like a one-day event. I'm not entirely sure on that. More to follow. Steve Schmutzer's Solid Bread Ministry in Fort Collins, Colorado, and I think that's in September. And then Pastor Gary McKibben, if they do another Belfast conference, I'm totally down. But you never know. We might be at war with the UK by then, so I may not even be allowed in the country. You never know. Tina, I got you, Tina. Brandy, hey, Brandy. Tell Tim I said hello. Maybe Arizona if Pastor Dave ever gives me a call. Aaron Berg, Shenandoah, Schwartz, Joan. I don't know if I said you, Joan. Jesse Villanueva. Hopefully I didn't forget anybody. LaDonna Davis, Highland Craftsman. Pete, what happens in 2026 is gone a no rapture. Well, we don't know that. Nobody knows the day or the hour. So January 1st, 2027, we'll have that conversation. Jonathan Sinclair, Linda Parrish, Isaiah 53. Hey, Isaiah. Just Country Girl. Rochelle, ROK96. Rochelle Rock. Mom's on. Are you in Texas already, Mom? Tanya. Hey, Tanya. Adam. All right. I'm starting to lose. Whoop. I saw something about a Maine Coon. Pete, I want a Maine Coon. They are amazing. Yep. Beulah from Sydney. Hey, Beulah. Patrick Hart. What up? I'm not a big cat guy, but a friend of ours had Maine Coons, and they're chill. I mean, they're just like really big, chill cats. So I don't know. Annette, hey, Annette, Diana, Watchman Dave. Brooke, hey, Brooke, how are you? Watchman Dave. Tim says, hey. Calypso, Putin has warned Trump will make the end of the world if he takes Greenland. Yeah. That's interesting what's going on with Greenland right now. So I just heard tonight that Trump is going to raise tariffs on 8 of the European countries that put troops in Greenland. And it wasn't like they really put troops. They put like 1 or 2 troops each. I think there's a total of like 34 troops from like 8 different countries. They're doing some type of military exercise. So what they're doing, they're probably sitting around playing cards or something. I have no idea. Margarita, hey, Margarita. Crazy Cat Lady says, I have a 14-year-old orange female Maine Coon now, and I've had 3 males and 2 females. What are better, the males or the females? Melissa Tate, hello from Rockport. Rockport, that's kind of far from here, but it's still in Texas. Carol Carp. Kim asks, how's the family? Everybody's great. Went and saw everybody last night. My Ella's birthday. They're celebrating it a weekend or no, I guess it is this weekend. It's the what's today, the 17th? It's next Wednesday. Karen Todd. Hey, Karen. She said, you ate with my mom at Garcia's? So Garcia's is a good Mexican restaurant in San Marcos. I actually had years ago when I was in college. I was living in South Austin at the time and going to school, at Southwest Texas, but I was working up in Austin. And I had met some German folks back when I was in Germany in the 90s. And they were coming to Texas to do I guess they were starting in Texas and then going all the way up to like this huge road trip, and they were just hitting all these country music festivals. They really love country music, and I hadn't talked to them in years, and they knew I was from San Marcos, and they showed up to the Garcia's restaurant in San Marcos looking for me, and showing up to any town in Texas and looking for Garcia is like looking for a Smith or a Jones. I mean, it's like there's probably thousands. So somebody there knew me. They knew how to get a hold of me, and so we ended up connecting. It was super weird. Sandra, hope Pete discusses the Gaza Board of Peace playlist tonight. I didn't actually have any agenda tonight, so I'm tracking it a little bit. I don't know. You know what? I honestly don't think that Mondo was the first guy that I heard of that floated this idea that the Daniel 927 is not about a peace treaty. It's about the reinstitution of the Mosaic Law. And I don't know that, he makes the case that in all of the instances in Daniel, the book of Daniel, every time the covenant is mentioned, it has to do with the Mosaic Law. It has nothing to do with peace. So I'm thinking that that's maybe a more accurate conclusion to that. So regardless of what happens with this Gaza Board of Peace or whatever, I'm not really sure if it's prophetic for sure, but I don't know that it's Daniel 9:27. Let's see. Oceana, hey Oceana. John F. Kennedy, 5051, South Carolina in the house. Can't decide between males and females, both super loving. Yeah. And that I did not get to watch the LA Marzulli conference. I had intended to, but I did not. Siamese cats are I think they're mean and they're very loud, like very vocal cats. I don't know if people love Siamese. I don't like them. Jesse says, wish I could have a pet. I can't even have a goldfish. We're gone too much. Yep. Let's see. GB, hi Pete. Hey, what's going on? Many Garcias at our family reunions. Yeah. Squid Optimist, do you have an update about Iran? Weren't they supposed to do something big on Wednesday? So here's, as far as what I know about Trump, right? And I've said this before, and I've come to the conclusion through other, listening to people that know his style, have watched him for years, that know him intimately better than I do. I mean, I don't know him personally, but, just trying to figure out why he does what he does. And I think he stopped or postponed the military action, when they halted the public executions. Now, that's not to say that they haven't killed a lot of people in the streets or whatever. I'm sure they have. I think that's the thing. We don't know. I mean, so much information's coming out of Iran. It's hard to tell what's real and what's not real. I've heard 2,000 to 20,000, And the one thing on the Republican side, you've got all the neocons wanting him to launch into this massive, military operation against Iran. The 12-day war they had back in June did not take out all of their ICBMs and all their missile capabilities. So that put the rest of the Middle East on kind of lockdown and on a high alert. You got the Arab countries freaking out because they're afraid of a destabilized Iran. And they're also afraid of missiles hitting their own cities. And same with Israel's preparing. They had a no-fly zone over Iran for, I don't know if it's still operating, but it was for the last few days. And Trump I think he thrives on being unpredictable. He just, his enemies and his allies, not nobody knows what he's going to do, but um, I don't know that. I think that if he is going to do something, he's going to wait for the right time, and he's going to wait until he has the absolute guarantee of success for it to be quick, effective. He does not want to get bogged down in another Iraq situation. And that's why he hasn't replaced the leadership in Venezuela. I did hear him speak earlier on this. He said the reporter asked him, like, why didn't you change out the vice president from Maduro in his leadership? And he's like, look, I remember Iraq. We went in and they replaced everybody. They replaced the generals, they replaced the colonels, the police. He goes, it just devolved into militias, we got ISIS out of that. So he goes, I'm not trying to do that again. Well, he didn't do that, but George Bush and I guess the Obamas. More to follow on Iran. It's interesting to watch here, to see what's going to play out. But all we know for sure is that they play a role in Gog and Magog, and they're also destabilized and scattered. In Jeremiah, I think it's 49. But there is a definite role they play. So whether it's a monarchy or it's some type of, let's say Khamenei dies and the generals take over, or somebody from the IRGC takes over, could be worse than the Khomeinis running it. I don't know. I mean, none of us really know how that's supposed to play out, but they do play a role for sure. Annette asked, Pete, can you explain the Mosaic Law? It's kind of a all-nighter thing. So there's 612 laws in the Mosaic, the books of Moses. When you have the 10 Commandments plus the other 602 laws, I think it is. Everything from, thou shalt not steal, to you can't wear mixed fabric in your clothing. They all come with punishments or, lack of punishment for doing the right thing. But that law was given to the nation of Israel. And if you read Exodus 20, this is the laws that the elders there agreed to, and it bound them for all generations. They were going to be held to this standard. And it's not a conditional, or it's not an unconditional covenant. The unconditional covenants you have, like the Abrahamic covenant, the Davidic covenant, the new covenant, those are unconditional. The Mosaic Law was the conditional covenant. If you obey my laws, then I will bless you. If you don't, you'll be cursed. So it's the if-then clause. You have the Torah observant Jews in Israel. Right now, Judaism is broken up into a bunch of different sects. You have the Reform, there's probably about 5 or 6 different sects within Judaism. And the Torah observant Jews, obviously they can only observe so much because they don't have a temple. They can't do their animal sacrifices and stuff. So they're still somewhat hamstrung. But yeah, I think that whatever this Daniel 9:27 thing is, I think it may be the reinstitution of the Mosaic Law rather than a peace treaty. Carolyn Green asking prayers for my daughter, Taylor's health and healing, please. Yes. Yeah, also lift up a friend Shiloh, her son Jared, with a brain tumor. Let's keep this guy in prayer. We prayed for him last time on here. Hey, Pete, the bigger the cat, the bigger the cat box. Got it. Mary Sue says Siamese cats are crazy. Yep. Heard earlier that the government started back the funding of Planned Parenthood. I have not heard that. I'd have to look into that. Good breakfast. My orange cat really is named Pete. It's a good name. We have Nigerian dwarf goats. That's interesting. I have a Siamese, not vocal at all. Okay. Hey, Richard, it's good to see you on here. Um, yeah, Brooke, I hear you. It's confusing. I've been watching the 2CTV and that Iranian chick, Gamara, I think, whatever her name is, but I've been kind of trying to stay on top of what's going on in Iran there. But I mean, here's some things we know and we don't know. We know that Khamenei is Ayatollah Khamenei is 85 or 86, not in great health. I I don't know that he survives a year with all this. I mean, you got to imagine the kind of stress this is on him, and it's good. You know, he shouldn't. Hopefully, he converts to the Lord, becomes a Christian and converts. I don't think that will happen, but yeah, Richard, no mods tonight. So Gene asked, what do you make of Trump's new peace sort of cabinet he wants to make with all the countries? So what I was saying about earlier about what Trump is, he's not an adventurist. Like, he does not want to play to the neocons and start regime change and nation building and all that stuff. He's very much not into doing that. But he's also not an isolationist. So he's operating from a position of what is strategically the best for the United States. And he'll partner with any country that's a sovereign state in something that's mutually beneficial to both countries. So he doesn't want to be beholden to Israel. He doesn't want to be beholden to Qatar. He doesn't want to be beholden to the United Kingdom. He doesn't want to be beholden to Russia or to anybody else. And so he's a deal maker. He's trying to go out there and make deals. So he's bringing in a bunch of different people. I think that this is the wrong move. I think it's just really stupid that he's doing. I mean, I'm commenting on like how his style is, but I'm not saying that I agree with everything that he's doing. So I think there's a couple of European leaders in there. I think Tony Blair was in it, but now he's not. But you basically have a bunch of countries that, even if on paper they are not at war with Israel, they are still, kind of sworn enemies of Israel. Donna Shalom from New Zealand. You know what, Donna? I went to the movies this afternoon to go see Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. They're replaying them in the theaters. I guess they're kind of hurting on revenue. So, but it was cool to see it in the theaters again, like, just to see it on the big screen. And it really made me wish the last time I was in New Zealand that I had taken a few extra days and gone down there to the Shire and all the places they filmed that, just to go be there. Next time I will. Kelly Schultz. Hey, Kelly. We got one mod on. Kelly, you have my full authority to get rid of any trolls you want. If there's people trolling, just kick them out. I'm not trying to mess with that tonight. But other than that, we're just hanging out. You don't have to take any questions or do anything. Just I'll take them from here. Gloria says, my grandson says he is getting a Maine Coon when he gets a place of his own. They have 2 dogs and his mom will Yeah, I don't know. I just think it'd be kind of a cool. I've never owned a cat, my own cat or anything like that. Well, we did when we were little. We had cats, but they were all outside. They just stayed outside. Calypso says there's a mod right there. Yep, got one mod. I didn't announce it until tonight that I was doing it, so I'm not holding anybody to any kind of you must be here kind of thing. Honestly, I have not kept up with Calvary Chapel Kaneohe in a while, other than a few updates from when his wife and being in the situation she was. So it'll be good for him to get back in the pulpit. Yeah, I set it for 10 and I wasn't really paying attention to the time because I was thinking it was later than it was. And I finally looked at my watch and I realized, oh man, it's like 8:47. I don't want to start this at 10. I was like, so I went back and changed the time. So my apologies. This is kind of a last minute thing. Amir posted today on Telegram that nearly 20,000 unarmed Iranians have been executed. I'm very disappointed that Trump hasn't sent help for them. Yeah, I mean, if he's not sending help, he must have his reasons. That's all I can say is, and we don't know. None of us are in the situation room. There may be things behind the scenes that are going on that we just aren't privy to, and we aren't going to know until after all this kind of plays out. So I don't know. Absolutely. This reminds me of last year. Remember last January we had the mysterious drones and the orbs, and we had the mysterious fog all over the US and Europe, and then we had the New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, I guess. Well, I guess it was New Year's Day, the terrorist attack in New Orleans, and we had the Tesla suicide car bomb, whatever it was that was going on outside of I think it was outside of the Trump Tower in Vegas, whatever that was. Then we had the LA wildfires. I mean, just that was, then we had the plane crash that happened, so we had the inauguration, then we had the plane crash right after that in DC, the Black Hawk and the plane that hit each other collided. Then we had Project Stargate. I mean, so much has happened, and this year is definitely on track to keep up with that. What do you think about Greenland? Well, okay, so here's what I know about Greenland. I know that Trump is not the first president to want Greenland. That we've wanted Greenland since 1867. I can't remember the name of the president. So Lincoln was assassinated, and then it was whoever took over for him. Blanking on his name. Anyways, he tried to purchase Greenland then, and then Truman wanted to purchase Greenland, and then we end up buying the British or we got the Virgin Islands. Or wait, yeah, we got the Virgin Islands from Denmark. So we bought that from like 25 million, and then Truman later tried to buy Greenland because of the strategic location of it. So Greenland has a lot of different things going on for it. One is its location. It basically could control the Guyok gap. So the Greenland, Iceland, UK gap, that strait that goes through there. A lot of undersea cables and strategic assets are located up in that area. We have a space base there, which is, if you go kind of follow that longitude around to the Europe side, there's a place in Norway, Svalbard, Norway, that also has a lot of space stuff there because of where it is on the Earth. It seems to have the most stable access to, satellites and things like that. And then it, because of all the ice is basically, the glaciers and whatnot has stripped the surface of the ground there. So all the minerals, the rare earth minerals, are very close to the surface. The ice sheets are melting and stuff. So now, trade is going to be going through there. A lot more ships and submarines and things like that will be able to make it through those passes. And so it's going to become vitally important. I can see why he wants it. But my understanding now is they're starting to fly military exercises over Greenland, and then they're tariffing those nations that were participating in this little mock military exercise there. There's like 8 European nations and So now they have tariffs placed on them, and their tariffs are going to increase each month until they start February 1st. And they increase each month until they come to a deal on Greenland. So, and that includes Denmark. So then Denmark came out and said, hey, we can work out a solution here. So yeah, that's what I know about Greenland thus far. Would it mean for the United States to take over Greenland as the 51st states want to have it better? I don't know that they would be a state. They might just be like Puerto Rico, like a territory that we control. That's probably what will happen with it. They'll have some level of autonomy, but the U.S. will, for all intents and purposes, it'll be a U.S. territory. It's good. It's really good. It's a lot of it's like a program analyst job. It's a lot of thinking. It's a lot of researching and a lot of stuff kind of right up my alley. So it's turned out to be pretty good. A godsend, if you will. Yep. He is an accelerant and he's a disruptor. So I posted on Facebook the I think they're called Promethean Project. Anyway, so the lady that does a lot of their programs, her name's Susan Kokinda, and she explained the way the world is today in a way that I had not ever heard before. And when she explained it, I said, that is it. That is it, right on the money. That just makes all the sense in the world. So between World War I and World War II, the British Empire, which, the sun never set on the British Empire for centuries, was now in decline, and they realized it was in decline. So between World War I, they lost a generation of men, and World War II, they lost another generation of men, and they started losing all their wealth. I mean, they were basically broke by the time World War II started. And I think that has in part of the curse that, God told Abraham in Genesis 12, I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. And if you go back to from the 1917 treaty to let the Jews repatriate back to what was then called just Palestine. They, from there, all the way over to the Balfour, was it the Balfour Agreement or the Balfour Treaty? I can't remember what it was. Anyways, they from that time all the way till 1939, they went from being very pro-Zionist to being completely anti-Zionist. And you see by the time World War II begins, or is even beginning in 39, that the British are broke. I mean, they are so broke. They're just in such a bad way that Churchill's begging Franklin Roosevelt for planes and for ships, for anything. And at the time we had this, and we were not trying to get involved in World War II or with Hitler or anything like that. So, but they had basically, betrayed the Jewish people. By the time 1939 comes, they had already betrayed them 4 or 5 times. And anyway, so at the end of World War II, the U.S. had all the gold, had all the wealth. Basically, we're unimpacted, by the war, other than Pearl Harbor, in terms of damage and things like that. We did lose, a lot of men and I guess women in that conflict, but nothing compared to like the Russians or the British or the Germans or the rest of Europe. I mean, the rest of Europe was in shambles. So we came out with the Marshall Plan and then the Bretton Woods Agreement and all these things. And it was designed to help rebuild the Western Hemisphere. And in 1960, the British government, in conjunction with their exchequer and their lead banks, all the lead banks of England, created this network of secretive districts, financial districts, that would become what is today the offshore banking system, which is estimated to be worth somewhere between 50 trillion to I forget the other amount, $700 trillion worth of money that's flowing through this offshore systems that they don't answer to any governments. They're not, you can't, that they're completely offshore, completely separate from the sovereign nation states. And the British created that in 1960. You're like, why would they do that? Just think about it. We're sitting here, the Americans we created NATO, we're helping Europe rebuild. We're basically have this really unfair trade system where they can tariff us, but we can't tariff them. And all the free trade, they call it the liberal rules-based order that we've been living in the post, in the Cold War era and even into the post-Cold War era. But you think, why would they create a system that bypasses the United States and bypasses every other government? And this is what's largely, if you think about every tin pot dictator, every cartel, every drug kingpin, every criminal network, they use these offshore banking systems, Epstein, all that. That's how they move their money around. And it's all controlled out of Great Britain. So why would they do that? And so they've basically been using the United States for the last 70 years as their pit bull. And they'll stir up conflicts somewhere. We got in Vietnam because the French pulled out, and the French made a huge mess out of their own colony there. And, we got involved in there. We've been involved in other places around the world because of some European power did something somewhere. And now we're kind of cleaning up the mess because they've allowed terrorism. So I think that this whole system, this rules-based order system, is designed to cage the United States, to prevent us from being the superpower that we could be, or that we should have been, and should have been exercising those rights, but we never did because we've been playing by these rules that completely hamstring us. And you could see that through all the environmental, the green deals and all that kind of stuff that have come out over the years. We're like, why should we join this new Green Deal? And it guts our industry and it guts our economy. But we know the Chinese and the Indians aren't going to play along. They're not going to follow those rules. So why do we have to follow them? That's how this whole system was designed. It was designed to basically strip America and make us subservient to this new world order or the old world order that they created. And it really is just like an extension of the British Empire. And it's kind of like how people say after the Third Reich fell, we have the new Fourth Reich. And so this is kind of like the new Fourth Reich, but it's not German based, it's European based. And it's these elite families tied with the internationalist banking systems that have basically been working against us and financing our enemies for decades. They've been financing the cartels. They've been financing Maduro. They've been financing all these dictators around the world because they're using this offshore banking system to move all their money around. And they get all that. They get percentages off of that. The British do. So this has been like this backdoor deal that they've had. And by 1971, we had to get off the gold. Nixon had to take us off the gold standard because we couldn't afford it anymore. We couldn't afford to have this expensive land war in Asia and this completely bloated federal government system, the Great Society plan that LBJ started, that basically created a welfare state. We couldn't do both at the same time. And so Nixon was forced to take us off the gold standard. So anyways, Trump's not necessarily at war against any particular country. He's at war against the system. And I think they are not liking that system. They're not liking this at all. He's doing something that no president has ever done before, and he's waging war against this global government system that is trying to bury once and for all the Westphalian Treaty. The nation states are sovereign and they have the right to stay sovereign. Patrick Hard, Ezekiel 1:19-21 cites, for their spirit was in the wheel. Modern UFO lore purports craft are controlled mentally, same tech as Ezekiel craft. Indeed, it's a craft that is. Yeah, so I am of the mindset that whatever's operating up there is not aliens. It's not intelligent life from other parts of the galaxy or solar system galaxy, or, you know, universe, whatever this reality. I think they're fallen angels, and they are completely bent on deception. They're spirit beings that can manifest physically at times, because, you know, angels can manifest physically. We've seen that through scripture. You know, the angels that appeared to Abraham, to Job, pulled Job out of Sodom. The angel that appeared to Mary at the tomb, the angels that were there, I think there were angels there in Acts chapter 1. They were like, "What are you guys looking at? The same Jesus will come in like manner." That, you know, so we see a lot of instances where these angels appear and they look like men. Then Hebrews says that they we've entertained angels unaware at times. So if good holy angels can manifest physically, I'm assuming that, and is an assumption, that unholy angels or these fallen angels can still they still have that same capability to manifest physically. And if you listen to like Timothy Alberino and others, I think that they are more hierarchical in how they structure these. I'm just going to call them aliens for now, but these aliens could be hybrid creatures that these fallen angels have created. So they're like soulless physical beings, but they're just like a hybrid, you know, like a Nephilim type thing. You know, they're just a created being that, and I don't know if they can. I don't know if they have that capacity. They may not even be really alive. They might just be like machines, or, you know, some type of android or whatever. But it's all bent on deception. What if USA invades Canada after Greenland is the appetizer, Canada is a full course meal? Well, I did see that Mark Carney had just come out and said, "Hey, we're going all on board with China." And Mark Carney used to be the head of England, the head of the Bank of England. So he's all tied up in this whole, you know, Fourth Reich kind of thing. And he became the prime minister there in Canada. And he's dealing with the Western provinces, Manitoba, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and I want to say British Columbia, if I'm thinking correctly. And they are looking to break away from Canada, not to become necessarily part of the United States, but maybe in some kind of the same way that, again, like Puerto Rico is some kind of a province of the U.S. And so that may possibly happen. I don't know that we'll invade. I don't think we need to invade Canada, but we created this crazy strict policy on the border crossings up there because Canada would not fix their immigration system, or, you know, how they deal with, they don't vet their people, I guess, as they're coming in. And our borders used to be very lax with Canada, and that's how a lot of these terrorists and criminals and whoever was coming in from Canada. So now they've really ratcheted up the travel restrictions coming in and out of Canada. So then Canada retaliated by doing like manner. So I don't know. We'll see how that plays out this year. Okay, if the UFO end time scenario to be a cover up for the rapture occurs, how would the Antichrist fit into that? Seems like he would be less important to the world in the face of aliens, aka demons. So I've been working on this Mystery Babylon presentation, and I know that there's a lot of people that think that Mystery Babylon is simply the Roman Catholic Church, like Dave Hunt, I think, used to believe that. And he does great presentation on that. Some people think that Babylon, or even Mystery Babylon, is the United States, like New York City. Some think it's Rome. Some think it's, you know, actually going to be in Babylon, you know, Iraq, rebuilt, etc. I don't fall into any of those categories. I tend to think that Mystery Babylon is more it's a system. It's in one aspect of the system you have is the religious spiritual component to it. The other half is the materialistic secular commercial side of it, and you see that in 17 and 8, Revelation 17 and 18. So I think that those two go hand in hand in a way. They're meant to complement each other up to a point. And I go into way more detail in my presentation on this, but that system at some point here in the not too distant future will have 10 kings, and those may be technocrats, those may be czars, appointees, presidents, generals, whoever they are. They end up taking leadership positions in this final system that happens after the rapture of the church. And then the Antichrist arises from amongst them as the 11th. He subdues 3, and then he ends up cementing his role as the 8th. And you could look at that a whole lot of different ways, because there's been 8 kind of kingdoms that have oppressed or attacked or played a very leading role or a large role with Israel, going back to Assyria, Egypt, Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome, and then this final iteration. So it could be that it's of the 8th. So whoever this guy is, this Antichrist that's going to come forth, if these fallen angels or these aliens are fallen angels and they're demonic and they all answer to the same master, who is Satan, they're going to point to that man and say, this is the guy, this is our guy that we have, he's going to lead you. So they're not going to try and steal the limelight from him. They're going to point to him to give that guy street credibility, is my understanding of it. So March 26th, Sandra, 26 is the gematria of Yahweh. I did not know that. It's interesting. Hello from California, as Rush Limbaugh would say, the left coast. Let's see, what else we got? You know what, Richard? I kind of think we've been in one. We've been in this cold civil war now for at least since Trump took office. We've been in one before that, but I think it was less pronounced. It was more of this culture war that was coming to a head. And then once Trump came in, it started to boil over. So yeah, I think we're definitely in a cold civil war. And if Trump does the Insurrection Act in Minneapolis, I mean, and he has every right to do that. And the Insurrection Act's been enacted a lot. I mean, way more than you and I would even think, like 20 something times, 20, 30 times here in the last 70 years. So it's not like he's the first guy to do it. George H.W. Bush used it a lot. So I see the blue states here in 2026. If Trump can get Congress behind him, the Republicans in Congress behind him, to really do politics the way he does politics, because you kind of have this faction within the Republican Party. You have the establishment Republicans, like the Bush family, all these different little dynasties that have been in politics forever, part of the Republicans, Koch brothers, etc. They hate Trump, and they want things to go back to the status quo. They want things to go back to just the way things used to be. And I think Trump's changed things forever politically in that regard. But I also think that Trump recognizes that if the Democrats get back in power, they're never going to let that go ever again. So whatever, this is kind of like the last major election was 2024. And the Democrat Party is broken 6 ways from Sunday. I mean, they're just broken. They don't have any platform. They don't have anything. All they have left is, like, if Trump's for it, they're against it. That's just their policy. and that doesn't win elections. They did win these kind of special elections in these deep blue states that have still have kind of rigged systems. So I think if the Republicans go after these systems and fix these systems to where they can't be cheated anymore, like mail-in ballot and all that kind of stuff, then I think the Democrats are done. Yeah, I was talking about this earlier. He's kind of on board with this with China now. And again, he used to be the head of the Bank of England, so he is fully on board with this globalist system that Trump he pulled a grenade pin and tossed it in this room full of globalists and said, "Have fun. We're not playing by your rules anymore." So now they're having to restructure their whole globalist system, and I think they're going to try and hedge their bets with China. But China's in a bad way too right now. China's in a very bad shape. So that's a losing proposition too. Trump told people to rise up and then nothing. The people need help. What is the problem to help these people? I don't know. If like I said earlier, there may be stuff in the background that we just aren't tracking, that we don't know about. There may be, they may have stuff in satellites, that could detonate EMP kind of explosions over particular cities or countries, and that we don't have a way to counter that right now. I mean, there's so many things behind the scenes we just don't know about, that the reason why he's using uncertainty to destabilize the Khamenei regime. Hey, Yvonne, it's good to see you on here. Pete, can you explain faith without works is dead? From James. Yeah, so James, let's see. My Bible. Chapter 2, starting in verse, I'll just start in 14. What does it profit, my brethren, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can faith save him? If a brother or sister is naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you says to them, depart in peace, be warmed and filled, but you do not give them the things which are needed for the body, what does it profit? Thus also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. But notice he says dead. He does not say non-existent. But someone will say, you have faith and I have works. Show me your faith without your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. So, and then he says, you believe that there is one God, you do well. Even the demons believe and tremble. But do you want to know, O foolish man, what faith without works is dead? Was not Abraham our father justified by works when he offered Isaac his son on the altar? Do you see that faith was working together with his works, and by works faith was made perfect? And the scripture was fulfilled, which says, Abraham believed God, and it was accounted to him for righteousness, and he was called the friend of God. You see then that a man is justified by his works, not by faith only. Likewise, not Rahab the harlot also justified by works when she received the messengers and sent them out another way. For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also. On the basis of this passage, James 2:14 through 26. I'm just reading my notes here. James has been charged with contradicting the doctrine of justification by faith as set forth by Paul in Romans 4:1 through 5. But the supposed contradiction is merely in words rather than the underlying truth. James in the passage uses the word faith in the sense of intellectual orthodoxy. Paul, when he uses faith in a personal sense, means trust in the atoning work of Christ to the extent of full commitment to him. For James, the word works means the believer's works, the outward evidence of a saved life. On the other hand, Paul sometimes employs works to denote the deeds of the unsaved man, whereby he vainly hopes to gain acceptance with God, while at other times speaks of good works, by which he means the fruit that the justified man must produce. Moreover, the word justify is for Paul a legal positional term. See Romans 3:28, describing a once-for-all act of God appropriated by faith alone and relating to the initial moment of the Christian life. But for James, justify is employed of any subsequent moment of the Christian life and proves the reality of a man's faith before his fellow men. Thus, in their views of justification, Paul and James complement one another. Paul stresses acceptance with God wholly by grace through faith, whereas James presents the continual evidence before men of the initial transaction. For the definitive New Testament statement on faith and works, in which both views are brought together, see Ephesians 2:8 through 10. So we know that is salvation is by grace through faith, not of works, lest any man should boast. So since we believe that Scripture cannot contradict itself, we see that this is a complementary. And I think when you read James, he's kind of abrasive. You know, he seems like he's got a chip or an edge to his writing, because he's calling out a lot of different kind of hypocrites and stuff. And I think he was addressing the religiously pious people that said, look at my faith, look how good I am, look at this, that, and the other. And he's saying, well, I'll show you, that's your works. Let me show you my faith by my work, or my works by my faith. And so I think he's simply drawing a distinction between those who just pay lip service with those who actually have a changed life, and it's evidenced by their works. Question: will you explain the fullness of the Gentiles and all of Israel will be saved? Thank you. That's Romans 11:25. For I do not desire, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own opinion, that blindness in part has happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles has come in, and so all Israel will be saved. As it is written, the deliverer will come out of Zion, and he will turn away ungodliness from Jacob. For this is my covenant with them when I take away their sins. Concerning the gospel, they are enemies for your sake, but concerning the election, they are beloved for the sake of their fathers, for the gifts and calling of God are irrevocable. He goes on, but the fullness is the completion of the purpose of God in this age, that is the outcalling from among the Gentiles of a people for Christ's name, the church, which is his body. And then it must be distinguished from the times of the Gentiles. So the times has to do with what it sounds like, time. There's an appointed time. When you read Acts 8:17-26, I think that God sets the times and the boundaries for the nations, how long they will go, how long they will thrive as a nation or decline or collapse or whatever the case is. As it regards to Israel, we know in Zechariah, I don't know the exact passage off the top of my head, but he talks about there being that two-thirds will perish, but 1/3 will come through that time of testing and be saved. And so taking these two kind of ideas together is that during this time, this dispensation of the church, that God is outworking of the Holy Spirit, is drawing all men unto himself. Jew, Gentile, male, female, rich, poor, slave free, and in Christ they are all one. There's no distinction amongst any of that in Christ, in the body of Christ, in the church. That is not to say that those distinctions don't exist in reality, because we still have males and females, we still have rich and poor, we still have slave and free, we still have Jews and Gentiles. Those still exist superficially. Now, when it says that all Israel will be saved, that God has, when we read, I think it's in Galatians, where Paul says, not all Israel is Israel, that those Jews that reject Christ are not going to be counted in once they're dead and they're into their final state, eternal state. They're like the Gentile that's rejected Christ, that dies and is now in their eternal state, separated from God forever. So whatever that fullness of the Gentiles is, we don't know what that is. It could be some number known only to God. It could be a percentage. It could be, we don't know what that is. It could be the outworking of the Holy Spirit across the world. It seems like the gospel at the outset of the first century, when the apostles began to spread out throughout the Roman Empire and beyond, they went in all different directions and began to share the gospel. And we've seen over the last 2,000 years that different places at different times, the Holy Spirit's really working, and there's that place becomes very Christian. And then that goes on for a while, and then some other religion comes in, and Satan stirs up some new belief system like Zoroastrianism or Islam or whatever, paganism, and it drives the Christians out or scatters the Christians, and then it spreads somewhere else. And so we've seen this go around the world a few times. I don't know what the exact fullness of it is, other than to say it's some number or percentage known only to God. And whenever the full reckoning of the Jews that come in to saving faith in their Messiah, that will complete the fullness of the Jews, So Olivier Melnick has a saying, talking about that percentages of the 2/3 that will perish in the tribulation. It's interesting that God gives a percentage there, because we can affect that percentage now, So if we're more diligent in sharing the gospel with the Jewish people, and there's more Jews that become, what we would call Messianic Jews, that would diminish, that would lower that total number, thereby lowering that percentage. It'd still be 2/3, but instead of being 2/3 of, say, 8 million Jews worldwide, it would be 2/3 of only 4 million Jews worldwide. And the other 4 million would have come into the church, become part of the body of Christ. So we can impact that percentage now. And we also see in Revelation that there is going to be 144,000 from the 12 tribes minus Dan and Ephraim, and that they will go out, and presumably being spirit filled, will go out and become like 144,000 Pauls, the Apostle Pauls, and going out and proselytizing and converting Jews and Gentiles, presumably into the tribulation saints, what will then be the tribulation saints. Is Tony Blair one of the seven? I think Tony Blair is out, Yvonne. I think he's not part of that peace council. Hey, Kelly, good to see you. Gnarly news. I noticed a couple of verses that go with your Revelation 3:10. Christ taught patience, 8:15, 21:19. Oh yeah. I forgot they were doing it, because if I'd have known about it last weekend, I think I would have. I think they're doing it each weekend. They're doing the release. So last weekend was the first, and then Lord of the Rings, and today was the Two Towers. I'm assuming next weekend is the Return of the King. But it was cool to see it in the theater again. The last time I saw them in the theaters was when they came out the first time, like 2003. I think it was 2002, somewhere in there. It was cool to see it in the theater again. I really love that world that Tolkien created. I don't know if I'd be on board with like having to run everywhere. You know, like they do a lot of running in that movie, a lot of running. You'd have to be in really good shape to do that kind of running. Pam Lester says, Pete, you'll be a great Catman. We'll see. We'll see how that turns out. Why does the Bible call Satan and Jesus morning stars? Well, Lucifer, I want to say that, let's see here. Isaiah 14. The day star. How you have fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. Lucifer was I think when Jerome translated it to Latin, it ended up becoming Lucifer. And I'm blanking on the name that, what is it? Trying to think of the Hebrew name for him. He was the anointed cherub, right? We know that. And we know that he is trying to be like Christ. He tries to mimic Christ in everything that he does. But to be honest, I don't know why they're both called that. I just know that the word Lucifer is a light bearer when Jerome translated it to Latin. And I think Shakar ben Shakar, Hillel ben Shakar, I think was the name in Hebrew for Satan. But to answer your question, I'm not 100% sure. Although that Satan tries to mimic everything Christ does. Let's see, what is it? Trump and Vladimir Putin are best friends. I don't think they are. I mean, you remember Bush when he said that he could see his soul in Putin's eyes, or when he looked, something to that effect. He could look into his eyes and see his own soul, or some really like cringe thing he said. Trump's never said that. The Manx is a stupendous cat. Is that a Maine Coon? I don't know is Manx a separate breed? I don't really know a whole lot about cats. I'm trying to catch up here on the comments now. Hi Pete, do you ever watch Brandon House? His guest Annie Cyrus says that 70% of Republicans would want the MEK instead of the Crown Prince. The MEK, what is that? I don't know what the MEK is. Thank you. Andrew Johnson was Lincoln's VP. So in 1867, he tried to buy Greenland. UK Banks was informed to make contingencies in case alien life is confirmed. Is that why they created the offshore banking system? I mean, that could be it. It could also be that they knew that they were a declining empire and were trying to find a way to safeguard all their money offshore. Kim, hey, I answered this already. Kim, I'm liking my new job. I'm really liking the people I work with. A really good group of people. So digging the new team. Okay. Shenandoah. Pete, I love your thoughts. If they try to explain away the rapture with aliens, what do you think they'll make of the empty graves when the dead in Christ rise first? We assume the graves will be empty. We assume that they'll burst out of the graves and all that. And that's not a wrong assumption necessarily, but it is an assumption. I mean, those bodies the dead could rise up through the ground in the spirit form, and then when they hit the atmosphere, they're boom, given the glorified bodies, and or they could be giving it to them in the grave. I don't know, but as an assumption. But if it is where they burst out of their graves, yeah, they're going to have a hard time explaining that. And to be honest, I mean, we see in Revelation 6 and 7 that there is there's a number that couldn't be counted of tribulation saints. I mean, I tend to think that the rapture is going to be one of the most evangelistic witnessing tools ever, and it will bring in more people to faith in the tribulation period than there has been during the last 2,000 years, which is why I think God has allowed us to have so much of this to come back into the forefront in these last days. And not only that, but he's enabled incredibly intelligent men, Wolverd, Ironside, I mean, just on and on and on, of scholars that have gone on to expound upon this to show that it's absolutely biblical, it's absolutely true, it's going to happen. And these guys all have 5 different degrees after their name. They're all experts in other languages and Hebrew, Greek, and everything else, and they're all like, yep, that's what it means, and that's what it says. So why has he allowed it to come back into the forefront now rather than say back in the Middle Ages when everybody was illiterate and everybody was scattered all over the world? Let's see. Okay. You're not invisible, Kim. I keep hearing people say ICE does not have authority to do their jobs, arrest, defend, etc. They are federal agents. Yes, they are. They absolutely have the right to do what they're doing. And in fact, it's a federal violation to do a lot of what the states are doing, like Minnesota and Minneapolis are doing to say stop not let them rent hotel rooms or lock the door so they can't use the restrooms in certain buildings, just things like that. Those are obviously hindrances to federal operations, which could trigger an Insurrection Act. Pete, do you think Trump's intention, although futile biblically, is to create peace by taking Venezuela down, thus causing Iran's regime to weaken, to bring it down along with Russia, 3 birds with 1 stone? I think Trump's plan is more targeted. It's more comprehensive than that. So by taking Venezuela down, he absolutely crushes Cuba. and because Cuba was wholly dependent upon Venezuela for support, for life support. And Maduro's, all of his inner guard were all Cuban officers. And he could also take down the cartels, the Mexican cartels that were largely getting all their drugs and funding and all that through Maduro or from Venezuela. And not only that, but it's also taking aim at the offshore banking system. So of the trillions that are in there, something like almost $400 billion is narco money that provides the liquidity that system runs on. And so he's taken aim at that as well, which then takes aim at a lot of politicians, Republican and Democrat. It takes aim at a lot of European elites that have liked having that liquidity in the offshore banking systems. He is also shoring up the Western Hemisphere. Like when they took Maduro, the day that they took Maduro, I think it was January 3rd, the Chinese had sent an envoy over there, a team of Chinese men, state agents that were basically making all kind of like 600 different agreements with Venezuela for mineral rights, oil, port operations, all kinds of things. And so that was going to give China a big foothold in South America. And then on top of that, that's taking aim at Russia and China because they had supplied Venezuela with all these state-of-the-art air defense systems that we just went through like a hot knife through butter. And so now all those, nobody's going to buy those systems because like, yeah, they don't really work that well. So he's targeting a lot of different places at the same time by just one move against Venezuela. That's why I said when he's doing these things, they seem to be incredibly strategic and multifaceted in their effects. Catalin, hey Catalin. Yeah, I know tonight was kind of last minute. I was sitting here doing slides and working on stuff, and this is interesting. Let me share my screen here real quick with you guys. So I went on the ChatGPT and I asked, you try and get a question, and I'm trying to ask. I say, hey, I want you to be 100% neutral. Don't look at it from my point of view. Don't look at it from any point of view. But here, I want you to look at all of the different religions and which is the most realistic in terms of like how it presents itself, its theology, its all of these different things, right? And it says, after millions of conversations, one worldview explains more than the rest. And I said, I want you to look at every religion, every worldview, and which one is the most realistic. And it says, if I strip away sentiment, tribal loyalty, wishful thinking, and evaluate worldview based on internal consistency, explanatory power, and alignment with observed human behavior, one framework consistently explains more than the rest. And so then it goes through materialism, technological utopianism, cyclical worldviews, like Hinduism, Buddhism, a lot of the New Age stuff, postmodern relativism. He says, or I guess this machine says that I think it's this right here. There's one framework that consistently anticipates what humans actually do, not what they say. Premillennial, pre-tribulation biblical eschatology begins with an assumption that most systems resist. Human nature is fundamentally broken, not ignorant, not underdeveloped, but broken. From the single premise flows an explanatory structure that repeatedly aligns with observed reality, technological acceleration without moral restraint, centralization of global power rather than dispersion, deception outperforming violence as a tool of control, moral inversion, where good is called evil and evil is good, a final system that is unprecedented in power and breathtakingly fragile. And so then it goes on to list, everything that we study all the time fits within that framework. But anyways, I thought that was interesting. And then you could take that and say, which of these, you could take this across every AI system that there is, Quest, Claude, Grok, and you kind of get the same perspective. When you just ask the system to be completely neutral and from a realistic standpoint, which position is the most accurate in describing the human condition, the way the world is, et cetera, et cetera. And it brought that up to the forefront. And then I asked about its Latter-day Saint theology, because I'm dealing with that on X a lot. And you can see that it makes their adherents more susceptible to the specific post-rapture delusion, not because intelligence or sincerity, but because theological compatibility. Mormon cosmology already normalizes non-biblical beings, exalted intelligences, continuing revelation, hierarchical cosmic authority, and humans progressing towards godhood. And so I thought that was pretty fascinating that the system would look at it like that. Anyways, I don't know what you guys think about that, but and it takes a while to sort through it and say, okay, look, I don't look at it from, I want you to be completely neutral when you answer this question. If you look at Islam, I had gone through like Islam, Hinduism, and then finally I kind of narrowed it down to just, okay, let's break this down into like big categories, because the answer is way too long. Said, okay, out of all of those, which is the most realistic? And the Bible consistently is the one that shows that mankind, when it has power, always abuses it. When it has freedom, abuses it. Basically showing that mankind is broken, and all the other views try to portray mankind as not broken. Ergo, we're evolving into something better and better and better. But in reality, we're not. We're de-evolving or devolving into something that's worse. And I don't know. Just thought I'd share that with you guys. That was pretty interesting. What if the hook in the jaw is a major gold discovery discovered by the Jews, so the hidden treasures of the Jewish took with them when they left Egypt during slavery, and now Russia, Turkey want to spoil? Yeah. Or they discover Solomon's mines. I know they were looking for Solomon's mines. And besides the natural gas fields they have off their coast, and I mean, there's a number of different things that they could all want from Israel. Hello, Angel Gordon. Good to see you on here. Coco Bear's on here. Hey, Coco. Stacy, okay, how are you? No problem, Kim. Svalbard has an abandoned Soviet mining town of Pyramidea. Watching an interesting documentary. Yeah, I didn't even know that town existed until I think I was watching Pippa Malmgren talking about all the space stuff they have tied up there with that place in Norway, the Balfour Declaration. Thank you, Jesse. Hello, Lisa. Set apart for him. Digging for end times truth. Thank you, Balfour Declaration. So what are y'all doing tonight? What's everybody just hanging out at the house? Are you guys is this on your phones? Are you out and about? I guess if you're in Australia, it's tomorrow, right? Tomorrow morning. Or Europe would be, I'd be like way early in the morning. What time is it where you? If you're in Europe or Australia, put your time on there. Yes, this is what I want to know. I don't think they do. Do Maine Coons shed? Somebody can answer that question. Do you believe that this country will be cashless within a year? I mean, we're almost cashless now. I mean, how much how many transactions do you actually pay for in cash? I mean, I try to carry cash around. You know, I usually carry $20 to $40, but um, I think I try just to save that for places that don't take cards, but that's few and far between nowadays. I think that whatever the next crisis is going to be, it's probably going to be financial. It may be a currency collapse or some kind, and then yeah, they'll have to move everything into more digital. Abel, how do you see Jeremiah 49 playing out? If Ayatollah is removed and Shah becomes Iranian next leader, will the bow of Elon be broken pre or post rapture? Well, I think they're going to be if my reckoning is correct, that the people that are there will be scattered to the whole world. So that means it should be after the rapture, maybe in conjunction with Gog and Magog, be my best guess. But again, I said this at the outset. We don't know if it's going to be the Shah, the Ayatollah, some IRGC general, rogue general that takes over, or they break up into militias, or whatever happens. Um, they are a player, indisputably a player in the Gog and Magog conflict. So how that actually shakes up, we don't know. It was real easy with the Ayatollah in charge, right? We could see that easily happening, but now with him on the ropes, possibly dying this year, it's hard to say. To the dude, Pete, do you see the Catholic Church trying to take over our country with all the Catholic people in government, also in the media like Fox? No, but not yet. But I think that 1 second after the rapture, the Catholic Church will be the dominant face of Christendom again. It'll be apostate. Obviously, it'll become part of the core of Babylon's system, religious system that's there, and they're really the best suited to do that out of all the religions in the world, even more so than Islam. I think the Catholic Church has got its fingerprints over pretty much every country in the world, barring like Somalia and North Korea. I think they're pretty much everywhere else because they blend in with whatever government system is there. They kind of just toe the line with whatever government's there as long as they can get a foothold in that country. Jonathan Sinclair, yes. I'm not going to be on here all night. I mean, I'll stay on for like another 30 minutes, but I'm not doing another 5-hour program. So get your questions in quick. Did somebody answer the question about whether Maine Coons shed? Did I miss that? I have a friend that has a YouTube channel reading the Bible to cats. And I think there's a delay here too. So I'm working through the delay. It might be like a minute delay between the system I'm on and YouTube. It seems to me that fallen angels must actually build spacecraft to operate in our physical world since only God can speak things into existence. It's a good idea. I mean, it's a good thought. You know, people get angst about that issue. Like, why do fallen angels need spaceships to fly around in? They can just fly. Yeah, I know they can fly, but they're doing that to deceive people. So they're just they we presume they have the ability to create technology. I mean, if you read First Enoch, and I think some of the angels that came down were teaching men how to make weapons of war and do all sorts of stuff. So they understand fundamentally how the universe is comprised of. I mean, they're spirit beings that are not bound to our reality, and they were there at creation, so they understand at a certain level how everything functions. They also know how to manipulate it. 12 Master, do you think there will ever be anyone held accountable for all the fraud and political irregularities uncovered in Minnesota? I think the hammer's coming down this year. Um, I think Dan Bongino, who was the deputy FBI director, stepped down a few weeks ago. He just posted on, I don't know if it's Twitter or whatever, but he posted that the things that he saw was so disturbing. He goes, look, and I know people they want justice right this second. He goes, but they're doing it the right way, and when it does come, it's gonna they're going after everybody. So um, I would expect that to start rolling out this year. Minnesota is just the tip of the iceberg. You got California, New York. I mean, all sorts of places where fraud's rampant. Ohio. The Broncos won. I didn't know. I didn't get the last of that game. Arrow Whisper says Babylon is Babylon. Maybe it is. I was in Iraq for a year. I just don't see how that's physically possible for it to be the Babylon of Revelation 18. I mean, unless some crazy earthquake opens up a gorge from the Persian Gulf all the way in, I don't know. It would take another 20, 30 years for that place to get set up. Sandra, yep, 100%. I think it's a system. Here's the thing too, and so I know Tyler did a video, I don't know when he did it, on Mystery Babylon, and he was making the case for New York. I don't think it's New York City, but when you look at, he does have some good points in there, and one is that you have a statue. Wish I had a statue of something here. You have a statue, right? And the head of gold is Babylon, the shoulders is Persia, abdomen of brass, I think it's brass or bronze, um, is Greece, the legs of iron are Rome, and the feet of iron mixed with miry clay is this extension of Rome, whatever that is. The point that he was making in that is that it's all Babylon. If the head is Babylon, the feet are Babylon. It's just power. It's Babylon is morphing into different stages of itself, right? And just like power seems to shift, power centers seem to shift. So it started out in Babel, and then it went to Babylon, and then it went to um, Pergamum, and then it went to Rome, and then it went to London, and then it went to, this power center shift in the world where Satan's throne is. Remember in Revelation, I think it's in Revelation 2, where Christ said that Satan's throne was in Pergamum. Well, it wasn't always in Pergamum. It was presumably other places before that. It was in Babel, where he was trying to get mankind to make this tower that reached into the heavens. And then after that, it was the King Nebuchadnezzar had the mightiest empire at the time. So it's just wherever the throne of power is at the time. So the power shifts around the world, but it's the same system. It's all anti-Christ, anti-God, anti-Israel. And it's okay. I mean, if like, I know, like, I think Andy Woods is the biggest one on that. Babylon is in modern day Iraq. And maybe it is. I mean, maybe something happened so dramatically after the rapture that it just ends up happening there. It's just that place has been a dumpster fire forever. And not only has it been a dumpster fire, I mean, the whole country is completely unstable. You've got all the different factions fighting, the militias, the Sunnis, the Shias, the different groups, the tribes, networks, the criminal networks. And not only that, it's landlocked. I mean, you've got 100 miles from the coast to where ancient Babylon would be if it's in the Hilal area, or the Hilla area. So unless the city is built somewhere else, maybe in Kuwait, which may have been part of ancient Babylon at the time. I mean, we're talking about, whether they're talking about the empire of Babylon or the city. The city is 100 miles inland, so I don't know how that becomes a place where the shipmasters can see the city burning just solely due to the curvature of the earth. I mean, you would not be able to see it from there. And they're talking about building canals. I mean, maybe, but you're talking 10, 15 years before that's even viable. I mean, those things take a long time to build. Do you think AI would know what is Mystery Babylon? No. I don't think it's a mystery. It's mystery, Babylon the Great. If it were easy to understand, it wouldn't be a mystery. I don't think. It's hard. It's hard to figure this out. I mean, same thing with like trying to figure out who the Antichrist is, or what the number of the beast. We know it's 666, but the number of his name, etc. That is, people used to think it was Ronald Wilson Reagan because he had 6 letters in each name. But, is it in the Greek? Is it in the, we don't know. We don't know he comes from out of the old Roman Empire somewhere. We don't know if he's European or African or Middle Eastern. It could be one of those. So some of these things we see through a glass darkly, and we just don't have a full understanding of it this side of the rapture. And that's why I don't get like super bent out of shape when people disagree with me on certain things, because like there's just no way to prove it one way or the other this side of the rapture. Hello, Misha. I feel for all you people in Minnesota right now. The people I met from Minnesota were like super nice. So it's hard for me to reconcile the nice people versus the craziness going on in Minneapolis. I just, even back in 2020 when the city was burning down, it's like, political leadership there is Nuts. Question: do you believe in the flat Earth? I do not believe in a flat Earth. No. I've watched Musk on his SpaceX rockets that he launches. He puts a camera on them. You can watch the camera, so it's sitting on the launch pad, and then without any interruptions or breaks in coverage, whatever, you just watch it take off, and as it goes all the way up, and then goes through all the different, the atmosphere, all the way up through the exosphere, and then to the thermosphere into the exosphere. And then you can really see the curvature of the Earth at that point. But like, I don't see how anybody could be flat Earth today. It's one thing to say, okay, if it were just the United States that controlled all space travel and we had to rely solely on NASA, you might have a case, right? But you have all these other countries that can launch stuff into space. I mean, you're talking about a lie that every country that has space capabilities would all have to maintain that same lie. And then not only that, you can go to Antarctica, you can go to the Arctic Circle, and verify with the sun, the rotation of the Earth, and all that if the Earth were flat, it would not do what it's doing. So I mean, there's very easily provable ways, and not only that, but every other planetary body we have out there is spherical. You just have to start denying so much of reality to buy into it. I can't do it. And if you want to, and I'm not saying you do, I'm just saying anybody that wants to hold to that, and have fun. I'm not knocking you. Me personally, I don't hold to that. I love playing Risk on the computer. I had a computer program that I could play it on for years and years, and then I don't know if I still have that, but I've tried to get the board game, and I don't understand the board game at all. Like, I'm reading through the instructions, and it's not making sense. I don't know. The board game doesn't make sense to me, but the computer game makes perfect sense. I'm a little frustrated in that. How can we better isolate China? Well, we were doing that until Carney just came out and made all these huge deals with China. So it looks like to retaliate against Trump, they're going to partner with Xi Jinping. But I think China is in a bad way. There's a show on YouTube I watch called Lei Talks, or something like Lei Talks, LEI Talks, and it's just I think she's Taiwanese, or she might be Chinese or whatever, but all her channel is just talking about China all the time, and just what's going on in China, and she's reading the Chinese news, and it's got contacts there and all that stuff. So she's like, dude, it's everywhere around the world, people are just done with the status quo. They're done with the way things have been for the last 40, 50 years. And that's why we're seeing all this craziness break out around the world. Yeah, man, he destroyed whichever the Trumps he debated in 2016. Which Bush was that? Just destroyed him. And it's kind of the same thing with Trump, though. The only reason that Trump even ran for president was because in 2011, Obama humiliated Trump at a correspondence dinner because Trump had been questioning whether Obama was really born in Kenya or not. And you can go back and find articles that says that that Trump was proud to be born in Kenya. You know, he was using that as his street credibility then. And then when it came time to running for president, then all that stuff gets, wiped off the internet, wiped off. Everybody, forgets that he was going around telling people he was. But in 2011, he just roasted Trump hard. And I think Amora Rosa, what's her name? The black lady that was on the Apprentice with him. And just trying to remember the paragraph or quote, she said, she's like, I don't think Obama really understands what he just started, and I don't think he's going to be able to finish this. Like, she's like, you don't know Trump. You don't know how he is. Like, he's not going to just let that go. And so, yeah, maybe the Bushes that are that vindictive as well. Yeah, man, John Fetterman, that's one of those oddities, man. That just you couldn't believe the guy got elected, first of all. Then he ends up being like this, basically a Republican, not even an average Republican, more like a MAGA Republican. So, and he's got to answer to his voting bloc, and so they're probably all blue collar MAGA folk. So he's doing what he's got to do to stay politically viable. But what's interesting about Fetterman, though, is his wife has all but disappeared from. I've never seen them together ever since. So she must have left him or something. She's never been seen with him again. Man, if she won right now, I absolutely guarantee we'd be in some kind of World War III scenario. Let's see. Steve says, hi, Pete. I agree with Andy Woods regarding Mystery Babylon in that the word mystery is not modifying Babylon. It's the end of one sentence, and then there is a period after that, so it is not used as a noun and not an adjective. Poor translation. Be that as it may, again, Andy Woods, and I'm friends with Andy. I would say I agree with him on probably everything else except for this one aspect. I just don't agree that Babylon is in Iraq solely because of Revelation 18:20. I think it's 18:20. Double check myself. And this is the biggest sticking point for me. I just can't get around it. Uh, 17, sorry, 18:17. For in 1 hour such a great riches came to nothing. Every shipmaster, all who travel by ship, sailors, and as many as trade on the sea, stood at a distance and cried out when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what is like this great city? And they threw the dust on their heads, cried out, weeping and wailing, and saying, alas, alas, the great city in which all who had ships in the sea became rich by her wealth. For in 1 hour she is made desolate. Ancient Babylon is not anywhere near the sea. It is in a desert, 100 miles in. I've flown over it in a helicopter. I mean, I'm sorry. I just, unless some major geographical, waterway is built there, and you're talking, that's still years. I mean, think about how long it took to build like the Panama Canal or the Suez Canal, or, I mean, this is even greater than that. I mean, in terms of like what they would have to go through to make that happen. And then, even then, is it like a one way in, one way out kind of thing? Because you'd have to dig a canal through all of Iraq up through Turkey, or, it would have to have some way to go out for these ships to go into, you know? I just don't see that. Now, I'm not saying it can't be in Iraq, but it can't be where it was ancient Babylon was. It's just geographically not possible. Unless you're saying if unless he's saying that the tribulation's still 20, 30 years away, maybe if it's that far out, which I'm sure nobody on here wants to hear that. Emma Berean, yep, better late than never. Do you think they need to nuke the filibuster? Yes, I do. Because as soon as the Democrats take over there, that's exactly what they're going to do. I still feel bummed out that I don't really have any works to offer Christ. I still feel like I should have something to show Christ. I don't I don't know why you mean you don't have works to show Christ. I mean, do you think Christ doesn't know your exact scenario? And I don't know your scenario either. I mean, I don't know anything about you. So, all I could say is that I've said this for years now that some of the most heavily decorated, saints at the Bema judgment are going to be these. I don't know if you're a man or woman or nothing about you, but I'm just saying that the most highly decorated, probably some of the most highly decorated are going to be these little old ladies with the soft shoes and silver hair, and they're prayer warriors, like that to me is like, that's how you see the Mexican generals and they got the awards that start on the back of their shoulders and then it goes all the way down like their pant legs and stuff. That they have all those awards. That's going to be those ladies. I asked about surgery to correct my vision. I can see far away. It's just reading stuff up close I can't read it. It's all blurry. And so my far vision is perfect. I have really good far vision. I could like read this from back here if I had to. But they would have to mess up my eyes in order to fix them or something. I was like, it's okay. I'll just wear my reading glasses. Yeah, Amir does post a lot on Telegram. I don't know if it's him. He might have a team of guys that constantly update his social media because I don't know how he does it. To have all the updates that he does on Telegram, plus writing books, plus speaking, plus et cetera, et cetera. He's got to have a team of folks that do stuff for him. He might just manage Telegram, but then other people post it to other stuff for him, or he's got it set up to when he posts on one, it posts on everything. Yeah, I turned all my Telegram notifications off too. Basically, when I want to go on there and look, I go on there and look at the specific one I want to look at, and I go to whatever the newest is. Or if I know it's a couple days old, I go back, scroll back up, but it's too much. Pete, what are your thoughts about Jared Kushner? Why is he involved in politics this time around? Something about him bothers me. Yeah, I think he is a candidate. Antichrist, 10 Kings, something. He plays some kind of role in the end. I don't know what, but Halal bin Shakar. Thank you, James. Yep. Mancoons are cool, but remember, you do not own a cat. They own you. I've heard that. I have become obsessed with sourdough bread with avocado. I gotta have it. It's super weird. I was never an avocado guy until just recently. Maybe it's just because I'm getting old. I don't know. You think if Trump gets Greenland, this will be the end of NATO? He could certainly use that as leverage. I know that he was trying to get out of NATO, and I think we should have. I think NATO should have ended back in the '90s. As soon as the Soviet Union collapsed, we should have shut NATO down, and they could have transformed that into some type of European defense force or whatever, European army. But NATO, it doesn't. It serves no purpose. It's a collective defense treaty against one particular nation. And it makes no sense that we have that when those nations are still doing backdoor deals with that nation they're supposedly at war with. Like the Germans in the Russian pipeline deal. Like, Trump was right to call out Angela Merkel on that. Ooh, I don't know what the cats are called, but they're like they're bigger than Maine Coons. Man, I'm blanking on the name of them now. They're almost like having like a ocelot or like a. They're not as big as minks or bobcats or anything like that, but they're bigger than your standard house cat. I forget what they're called. Hey, Stephanie from Georgia, good to see you. Ezekiel 33 and Ecclesiastes 8:8. 33:11. So to say to them, as I live, says the Lord God, I have no pleasure in the death of the wicked, but the wicked turn from his way and live, and turn from your evil ways. For why should you die, O house of Israel? And Ecclesiastes 8. So 8:8. No one has power over the spirit to retain the spirit, and no one has power in the day of death. There is no release from that war. Wickedness will not deliver those who are given to it. Not sure what that. Maybe I'm missing the conversation here. Trying to miss the. Manx don't have tails. Okay, got you. They're born with no tails, or the tails are cut off? Because I think a Maine Coon has an extra digit, right? They have an extra digit on their paws, like 6 digits. I don't know if that's all Maine Coons or is that just a particular breed of them. Pete said Mondo had some insight into the Border Peace. Oh, I'll have to talk to him. I feel like some of these questions are repeating. Panther Girl said 666 watching. That's not good. We need one more person to join or one person to drop off. All right, we're at 710 right now. Does anybody have a pig, like a little potbelly pig? Pete, will there be breakfast burritos in heaven? Asking for a friend. Yes. I'm pretty sure there will be. Maybe at the wedding supper of the Lamb, they might have those. They may have like every kind of food that you could possibly fathom that you'd want to eat. I don't know. Maybe it's all lamb. Yeah. Or it's all, I don't think it's going to be, in fact, I know it's not going to be all vegetables or anything like that. I think a lot of people got upset with Lee Brainerd when he did his, there's no, I forget the name of the video he did about there's meat in heaven. And people were upset because I think they still assume that in order for there to be meat, that something has to die. But if God could speak the universe into existence ex nihilo, out of nothing, I'm sure he can make meat out of nothing. It just, a giant pot roast shows up and nothing had to die. It's the meat that was there. He could speak that giant steak, porterhouse into existence without something having to die. Steve says, Jesus said in John that our work is to believe. I agree with that. Cuba is my next guess, if not Iran. They're too close to Mar-a-Lago. Marco has eyes on it. Yeah, so Marco's parents were Cuban exiles, so I think that Cuba is absolutely on the menu this year, more than any other country. Annette asked, does the Ayatollah of Iran escaping to Russia with his elite soldiers still fulfill Ezekiel 38? I think so. Yeah. We talked about it a little bit earlier. I mean, regardless of what ends up with Iran, they're involved in Gog and Magog somehow, some way, some shape. So I really don't know. I thought Ayatollah would have been taken out back in June, but they didn't. But then their intel, they watch what happens when they attack like that, and where do these guys go? It's like the same thing with Venezuela. We park all those Navy ships out there for months on end, and as soon as they hit a drug boat, those ships are full of communications arrays, and they're picking up all the chatter. Who's calling who when the boat gets blown up? And I mean, they're figuring out because the Cayman Islands are right there too, so they're picking up chatter from the Cayman Islands and all these offshore banking and stuff, and so they're probably data collecting on all this stuff and trying to figure out patterns of life for the Ayatollah. Where is his hidey holes and all that. So this whole uncertainty with them and the U.S. getting involved or Israel getting involved is probably got the regime just pulling their hair out right now, trying to figure out what to do. Yeah. Again, I was working here on slides and stuff, and I just thought, well, I should go live tonight. Pete, do you think Satan is trying to mess with the timeline? It speeds up and then nothing happens. Rinse, repeat. Yeah, I think that Satan kind of both ways. So either he's trying to prevent things from being fulfilled prophetically, or it seems at times he may be trying to have these things fulfilled prophetically. If he knows they're going to happen, he tries to get them to happen before they're supposed to happen, so that timeline is thrown off. And then it kind of, either way, he's trying to throw a monkey wrench into what God's doing. So it seems a lot like it seems like he's doing whatever he's working every angle that he can so that he can not go to the lake of fire. Do you believe so? Do any of you think that the horses that we ride back on earth with Jesus will have wings? Like a Pegasus. Yeah, I never thought about it that way, but I don't think they need wings. The Oval Office meeting with Zelensky and Donald Trump got heated and was one of the things I disliked about Trump when he blamed and embarrassed Zelensky. Hey, all I can say about this with Trump and Zelensky is that you go back to 2014 and the color revolution that the Victoria Nuland, the Undersecretary of State at the time in the Obama administration, all that was funded through George Soros and the open societies money. There was some shady stuff going on there. And I'm not advocating for Putin. I'm just saying that they pushed Putin to the point where he had no alternative but to go to war. And the idea of bringing Ukraine into NATO, that was the red line. But it goes way back. It goes back to 2014 or even before that. But there was a lot of shady stuff the Obamas were involved with, and the Bidens and the Clintons with Ukraine and all the color revolutions and stuff that they were trying to, and not just them, but the intelligence agencies and stuff were trying to get this war kicked off back then. Thank you, Panther Girl. Appreciate you. I look like the Wizard of Oz with that background. Almost midnight here in Michigan. Yeah, that's after 11 here. All right. If you guys go tomorrow night, I'll be on, or tomorrow afternoon. I did a show with our program with the Sunshine Church out of New Mexico. I think they come on at like 2 in the afternoon. But it's a pre-recorded show, but I'll try to be on the chat then, just interacting with you guys in the chat. And I asked one of them, I don't know, Jason or Keith, if they wanted to come on Monday night, and want to find out if they can. They might. I asked them kind of last second too, so they may have other stuff going on. But we'll do a lot more talking about Mystery Babylon, and that'll be kind of the gist of that conversation then. All cats shed except the hairless cats. Maybe I need a hairless cat. What's your thoughts on the roundtable this week? I'm not sure. You talking about the roundtable we did last week? Or is there another roundtable this week that I'm not tracking? Do you think that the it's that? I feel like I'm getting questions again. Let me see. Let me go to the end here. Sphinx cat, thousands of dollars. Sphinx cat. Is that a breed? Oh, the Wednesday night roundtable. I don't know. What about the roundtable? I'm not sure what that means. Are those the big cats? Are they like a lot bigger than the normal cat? Maine Coons don't like being left alone. They are very social. Okay. Thou hast me almost convinced. I want wings either way. That would be cool. Okay. Aaron Berg. What about the Final Four window, Pete? 1 year and it wraps up. Will everyone need to go back to the drawing board, the 2,000-year theory? We tied it to, the 2000th anniversary from the death of Christ, purely on the Gregorian calendar. So, I mean, that's what we've been using for the Julian, the Gregorian calendar for the last 2,000 years. So I think if we go through this year and there's no rapture, then yeah, we'll have to. Here's the one thing that I will say though. You have 2033 is the 2000th anniversary, right? So I think without a doubt, no way to spin it, that year plays some role with the tribulation, either the middle, the beginning, or the end. So, I don't know beyond that. I mean, That's why no man knows the day or the hour. And that's why the pre-trib position is the only position that it actually applies to. You can't apply that to the mid-trib or to the pre-wrath or to the post-trib. None of those other positions can have that meaning to it. So the only one that there is truly imminence is the pre-trib position. And we also have to take Hosea 5:15 through 6:3 into effect, like, okay, after 2 days, and on the third day, he will revive us, and then using that terminology of 2 days, we know clearly it wasn't 2 24-hour days. So what does that mean? We can go to other places in the Bible, Psalm 90, I think it's Psalm 94, 90 verse 4, in 2 Peter 3, where a day is as 1,000 years and 1,000 years as a day. So if we're going 2 days and it's been 2,000 years, then there has to be some kind of correlation with that. Now, if we go beyond 2033, for sure, I think at that point we have to go back to the drawing board. We're like, okay, we're in uncharted territory at this point. Okay, Chelsea Jones, 89. What are your thoughts on the age of accountability for the rapture? Sorry, I just discovered your channel after seeing you on Certainty for Uncertain Times. I've talked about this a lot. In fact, the Bible doesn't give a specific age for the age of accountability. Well, especially in the New Testament, but the only corresponding scripture that even applies in the same genre, same topic, subject of accountability, is in Exodus. I think it's 30. It's 32. Let's see. It's 30. Okay. Exodus 30. Really, you can go from 11 through 15. Starting in verse 11, it says, Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, When you take the census of the children of Israel for their number, then every man shall give a ransom for himself to the Lord. When you number them, that there may be no plague among them when you number them. This is what everyone among you who are numbered shall give: half a shekel according to the shekel of the sanctuary. A shekel is 20 gerahs, whatever that is, or however much that is. And the half shekel shall be an offering to the Lord. Everyone included among you who are numbered from 20 years old and above shall give an offering to the Lord. So then if you go to Numbers 32:11, Numbers 32:11, it's talking about the promised land, right? And it says, Surely none of the men who came up from Egypt from 20 years old and above shall see the land which I swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because they have not wholly followed me. And so we know the spies that came, the 12 spies that came back, 10 gave a bad report, and only the 2, Joshua and Caleb, gave the good report, saying that we can actually take the land. So in both of those instances, whether it's the ransom tax for your soul, you had to be under the age of 20, and those that could enter into the promised land had to be under the age of 20. And we know that, in terms of like their census and other things, you had to be, to fight in the army, you had to be over the age of 20. So 20 seemed to be the dividing line for God back then, for people that were accountable for their souls and those who were not accountable for their souls. Or also when it comes to like the promised land, the only ones that were able to go into the promised land were those under the age of 20. Said nothing about what they believed, said nothing about whether they were good kids or bad kids or teenagers or whatever. It said it had no there wasn't any predetermined requirements on them other than the age of being 20. So then, okay, you have that. And then you have to think about, how did God create humans? We weren't born fully conscious and aware and coherent and able to talk and think and do all that stuff as newborn babies. No, you're born a baby. You go through the normal process of growing, and that's part of the whole process with your brain developing, right? Your brain develops from the front to from the back, from the rear to the front. And your prefrontal cortex is the last part of your brain that starts to fully develop. And that seems to be around the age of 20 when you start getting you're accountable for yourself as an adult, right? So at we have in America, right, that you have to be 18 to be considered an adult to vote or to join the military or to sign up for selective service or other things. We put age requirements on things based on the physiological developments of a normal person. Teenagers, you don't get your driver's license till you're 16 because of your motor skills and all that stuff is now starting to become more developed or getting developed, to that point where you can actually do those things at the same time. And it's why we don't give driver's license to 8-year-olds. So I think as humans, if we understand that different ages, generally speaking, corresponds to the physical development of a person, especially when it comes to the brain, it seems to me that the age of accountability is more around 20 than it is, or 19 than it is 13. People used to say 13 because that's the age that in Judaism they would do their bar mitzvah, or if you're a girl, a bat mitzvah. Well, the bar mitzvah and the bat mitzvah, that's not in the Bible. That wasn't even something in Judaism until like the 13th century. So it's like the Middle Ages. So I don't think that 13 is the accurate number either. And I know that if you look at a lot of people want to equate knowing the difference between right and wrong from knowing the difference, or for understanding consequences for your actions. I think those are two different things. I mean, you can as a 5-year-old, you can know it's wrong to like kick a puppy, or kick a dog or whatever. You can know that's wrong. Your mom can say no, you slap your hand, spank you, put you in the corner, timeout, whatever. You can understand kind of those basic things, but you don't understand why. You don't understand the consequences of your actions. I can think back to when I was 16 and I was doing, really stupid stuff. And I think most of us can think back to our teenage years and all the stupid things we did then, and we just didn't think through the consequences because we hadn't been alive long enough to really have that worldview developed. And your prefrontal cortex is where your worldview is shaped, and it's shaped by your experiences, your education, all that. But that's how God made us. That's how God created humans to develop. Again, we could have been born fully mature, mentally speaking, but we're not. He didn't develop us, or he didn't create us that way. So we have to go through the normal growth processes, mentally, physically, emotionally. Why would that not be the same thing spiritually speaking? Since everything is tied to belief, how we believe, how do we understand salvation? It's all tied to your mind and to your worldview. So I think it's more to do with understanding consequences than simply knowing right from wrong. My 2 cents. And again, that's my opinion. Again, the Bible doesn't explicitly say anywhere in there the age of accountability is this, but the only 2 instances where there is an age of accountability is the 2 passages I showed you. Savannah cats, thank you, and Bengal cats. Very big and need a lot of exercise. Savannah and Bengal cats, yeah. Serval cat, that's another one I was thinking of too. Can you have a hairless chihuahua? You can have a hairless chihuahua, right? I think people have hairless chihuahuas. Um, so you said you grew up in the Church of Christ, Pete. Do you know how it says your parents raise your children the way they should go when they're older? God, it's even better at parenting. I didn't grow up in the Church of Christ. I married into the Church of Christ. Was involved in this for about 18 years. And that church is theologically vacant. I had a patient I saw in home health and they had a potbelly pig, cutest thing ever, but they still snort. I've heard they're very smart. Um, I've heard they're very, very smart. Hedgehogs are cute. I've never had a hedgehog. I don't want a bird. I think they're too loud. I've seen those videos of people like that have like parrots and stuff, and I don't know, I guess they let their parrots run around all night or whatever, leave the cage open, and they go out and they go up to like a phone or something. They say, "Hey Siri, play whatever," and the phone turns on and starts playing some playlist, 3 in the morning. Guinea pigs are one of my pets of choice. They're like a little dog if you spend time with them. What do you think about music in the church? Should we not sing songs like Hillsong, Elevation, new songs? I personally like just the old hymns. I don't really care for any of the new stuff. But I don't know why churches moved away from that. I mean, I'm sure it's part of the whole church growth movement and seeker friendly, sensitive, seeker sensitive, all that kind of stuff. But I just think most of the modern Christian artists today, there's just a lot of it's just like super repetitive and there's no theological, it's not edifying, I guess. It's not there's no depth to it. That's what I'm trying to say. All right. Oh, that's a good question. Why is an image of the beast needed when the real one is alive? Well, from my understanding, the image of the the beast, the Antichrist, is only going to be he's not omnipresent, right? So he's trying to mimic God's omnipresence by creating these epitaphs or these statues of himself and putting them up everywhere, and they have some kind of sentience. I don't know. It says they have this breath in them, or there's a what does it say? 13:15, he says, he was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. So this image is functioning somewhere else. It seems like away from where he is, or maybe it's central to his location, and then he is out doing whatever he's trying to do, manage the whole world. Or there's multiple of these things created, and they're set up in every one of the kind of headquarters places that he's at. So they're constantly like providing surveillance and commands and instructions and demands for worship, and can point out people to be executed, etc. So he's trying to mimic God's omnipresence by having these statues or images set up. I wonder if Age of Accountability will be older, as kids today seem emotionally and mentally stunted compared to previous generations. Possibly. I still think it's when the person is physiologically matured. And yeah, I agree that kids, generation, what are they, Alpha now? Generation Alpha and Generation Z are both have grown up in such confusing times. Well, come on, Pete, grow with the times. I don't know what that is in reference to. Oh, the hymns. Yeah. I don't know. I grew up on the old hymns. That's what I like. I like what I like. I think about kids in this age, especially ones that are born after 9/11, like this is the only world they've known. It's always been chaotic. It's just been like from 9/11 to the Iraq Afghanistan wars, to the mortgage collapse in 2008, to the all the political chaos, social media coming out. I mean, it's I'm thankful that I was born when I was born, and grew up in the 70s and 80s, that we had life before the internet. It's just so different now. COVID shutting down school for a year. I mean, like kids growing through school, like it's been incredibly chaotic times for them to be alive. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Well, all right, guys. I think I'm gonna call it a night. It's almost midnight here. So yeah. Anyways, thanks for hanging out tonight. Yeah, it wasn't no agenda tonight, just hanging out. Thanks for you guys coming on and conversing. Yeah. So tomorrow again, I'll be on with Sunshine Church around 2. And then Monday night, I'll be on my normal Monday Night Live. And then, man, what am I doing this week? I think I'm pre-recording something with. Okay, so Thursday I'm pre-recording with David Fiorosa. And then this weekend I'll be down in like Central Texas, so I'll be down seeing my mom Saturday. But so I probably won't. So I guess it'll just be Monday night this week. Yeah. So good night to everybody. Get some good rest. Go to church tomorrow, or tune into your favorite pastor, whatever it is that you like to do on Sunday mornings. And I will be on the chat tomorrow afternoon around 2. And I'm just still putting slides together for these conferences, the 6 conferences I got coming up. So I gotta get ready for all that. That's a lot. I started out the year, I only had one thing I was doing. I was only going to do Mississippi in May, and then it's kind of grown into all this. So, hey, whatever. I'm game. I just told the Lord to use me until he comes back. So just keep using me. So good night to all of you guys. Thanks for hanging out, and hope you have a great sleep tonight, and great Sunday tomorrow, great week next week, and I'll see you Monday night if you're on. Same bat time, same bat channel. All right, guys. Take care. God bless. Shalom. Maranatha.